Good evening. I want to welcome everybody to the March 26th, 2018 Jersey Village City Council meeting. On our agenda this evening, we'll move into item A, call to order, announce a quorum is present. Madam Secretary, a quorum is present.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Moving to item B on our agenda this evening, the pledge and prayer. This will be handled by Pulpit Minister Mr. John Gooch of Jersey Village Church of Christ. Pastor Gooch. Thank you very much, sir. We're moving to item C on our agenda, citizen comments. Citizens who signed a card and wish to speak to the City Council be heard at this time in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Unless the subject matter of the comment is on the agenda, the city staff and city council members are prevented from discussing this subject and may respond only with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes for their comments to the City Council. First card I have is Mr. Bruce Bowden. Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Marilee Beasley. It was 4 minutes. You did just fine. Thank you, Mayor Lee. Mark Malloy.
Okay, Mark Malloy, 7803 Hamilton Circle, past City Council member of the City of Jersey Village, Texas. Citizens' comments for the 03/26/2018 City Council meeting. Please make my verbal comments and documents given to the City Secretary a permanent record of this meeting. And, you know, I've been up here many times talking about how much money the city government spends on the Jersey Meadows Golf Course. And basically, I know there's people here that, you know, live around the golf course and they feel that it's a benefit to them. But anyway, I'm going to be the different person, I guess, reading my information here. I feel that, you know, the golf course is a extremely taxpayer subsidized 126-acre fenced-in waste of city revenue. The Jersey Meadows land area should be a free access area for the citizens that are funding its existence, just like Carroll Fox Park and Clark Henry Park. The current estimated city revenues that has been spent or is currently budgeted to be spent since the non-taxpayer allowed decision to purchase the golf course by the city government is estimated to be over $20 million. The golf course land area needs to be built out into a very effective stormwater detention basin that can also be utilized as low-maintenance public park space for all of the Jersey Village citizens to enjoy. The Jersey Meadows Golf Course land area has been determined to be a cause of flooding to residential homes and other properties within the city due to its sheet flow runoff, and there's now been 2 engineering studies that have been done that has basically proved that it is creating a problem with flooding. So now we've had 2 studies. The new study is now saying build the golf course berm project. The problem with going ahead with what could have possibly worked back in the early 2000s is that the city has since then acquired an estimated 704 acres of extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ, Jersey Village Crossing, on the south side of US 290, and they have plans to incorporate that land area into the city in the future. If you look at mapping of the area, you will see that most, if not all, of the ETJ area, as well as other land areas outside the ETJ, drains their storm water through the original north side of US 290 land area where all the already existing residential homes are located. The storm water that comes from the south side of US 290 Jersey Village Crossing and the continually expanding non-permeable concrete US 290 roadway stormwater runoff travels via channels that run along the south and north sides of the Jersey Meadows Golf Course. The golf course berm project is now not the answer to the current and future flooding problems for the city and its citizens. The usable estimated 110 acres where the golf course is located needs to be dug out like the already existing estimated 43-acre floodwater detention basin within the city. The detention basin project that I'm proposing be built would have the ability to detain an estimated 290 million gallons of stormwater runoff. The berm project idea has previously in the early 2000s and now in 2017 had vocal opposition from the homeowners that back up to the golf course. Their concern is that the berm would cause flooding to their properties. If the golf course land area was dug out into my proposed basin, there would be no berm to cause flooding to their properties. The city of Jersey Village, Texas, I feel, city government and management wants to try and sell their idea to the citizens that the 126-acre fenced-in, extremely taxpayer-subsidized Jersey Meadows Golf Course is a needed amenity that somehow makes the city a more desirable area comparative to other small cities such as Spring Valley Village, Hunters Creek Village, Hedwig Village, Bunker Hill Village, the city of West University, or the city of Bel Air, Texas. These aforementioned areas are very affluent, desirable areas, and they are smart enough to know that they do not need a taxpayer-paid-for, money-losing golf course to somehow entice people from other areas to come to their cities to visit or possibly relocate to. The City of Jersey Village taxpayers need to wake up and tell the very small politically controlling group within the city to stop wasting their taxes on a perpetual money-losing mistake. How much more money is the taxpayers going to have to give the city in revenue?
Mark, it's time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Fields.
Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for allowing me to participate in tonight's meeting. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Jim Fields. I live at 16413 St. Helier. Mayor, City Council, I have just a couple of items here, but I'll make my 5 minutes. Number one, the Easter egg hunt Sunday at Carroll Fox Park was a hit. And well, thank you very much. It was my first time my granddaughter had gone. She had a great time. It was well managed, and I really appreciate that. Thank you all very much. Second one is the bridge signs. I hope the Chief of Police, if you could just agree with Mr. Bowden. If we just have one say one lane only, it gets confrontational at times. I've had it where I've been on the bridge, I've had people yell at me, gestures, and I'm just worried it might escalate to something that might be detrimental. Thank you. Third one, code enforcement, City Manager Blees, I want to thank you very much. Mayor, City Council, this gentleman right here, working with him, have probably moved more cars that have been determined to be junk in the last month than I think we've had in almost 10 years. So working with his team, they've been very dutiful and looking at the codes to make sure they're enforced, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, City Manager. For the golf course, I'm all for it. I think the golf course is a fantastic asset, just like the people that we had come in here to give us a professional evaluation said it is an asset to the city. I'm saying that we should hang on to it because I think many years down the road, in case we do need to do some improvements, we could sell at that point in time. But I think it attracts a lot of people. As the golf courses, the Bear Creek's gone, Pinemont's gone. We're just going to, and we're lucky to be, I guarantee you, if we went back and asked Bel Air, Westview, Powney Point, and Southside Place, if they could have a golf course, I bet you they'd jump all over it. Okay, last one. Police Chief, just want to tell you, thank you again. My experience with my wife, the police come by, they don't just zoom by, stop and ask how my wife is doing. I just really appreciate that touch. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Bill Schuster.
My name is Bill Schuster. I live at 8 Peachtree Court in Lakes of Jersey Village, and I just want to thank the council for all the time they put in and the thought about helping with the flooding and keeping the golf course playable. I really love the golf course. I've been here since '78, and at that time it was Cameron's, and we just got to look at it. Now we can actually go play on it, and I really appreciate all your work on this. And also, I just didn't think about the bridge, but it is a pain to try to cross that thing when people are coming in from down Rio Grande at 5:30 and you're trying to go the other direction. They just won't cut you any slack. You know, you almost got to force your way on if you want to make it across. I don't know, stop signs on each side, make it like a four-way stop or do something until things are better. But I just want to say thank you and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Joe Hewitt.
Good evening. My name is Joe Hewitt. I am president of Jersey Village Senior Outreach. I spoke to you all several months ago while we were developing JVSO, which is a membership organization for Jersey Village residents 55 years and older. Today, I'm here just to give you an update. JVSO is a two-tier membership organization. The first tier being our basic membership, which promotes being active and connected through health, wellness, and educational and social activities. The second tier is our premium level, which is neighbors helping neighbors. Eventually, we will be providing direct assistance to those needing help in areas such as transportation, small jobs around the home, technology support, and more. So where are we today? Well, we launched the basic membership in January 2018 with a spaghetti dinner. I want to thank the mayor and several city council members, as well as Austin Blease, our city manager, who came to show their support. It meant a great deal to all of us who had spent the last 2 years in development, but it also was good for our founding members who saw your presence and they saw it as support. So today, here are some of our highlights. We currently have 71 members, and we have 38 volunteers. We have good traffic on our jvso.org website, which I believe is due to word of mouth. Our program committee has done an exceptional job just within the last couple of months. A few of our successful programs include the walking group on Mondays, yoga on Tuesdays, coffee and conversation and technology on Friday mornings at the Jersey Village Meadows Golf Course, and a once-a-month book club, a monthly dinner get-together, and these are just a few of the things that we have going on. We also have some special events coming up in the future, which includes even a bus ride to the Bush Library and lunch at Messina Hoff. Again, we are evolving, and this is something in progress. We are continually evaluating and asking our members for feedback to create more programs and ask them what they need. We are also in the process of building a pilot program for our premium members, which was, as I stated earlier, that this is a tier that is for direct services versus programs that we are currently giving. This is an exciting time as we are eager to reach out to those seniors needing a little more help to stay in their homes a little longer. We will keep you posted on that. And finally, I want to just tell a story before I end. In January, as we first started, at our very first program, we were a little concerned about how many, of course, if anybody, would show up. So I think there was about a half a dozen walkers on our very first chilly day. At the end of our walk, this very nice woman in her 70s came to us to share her story. She said she had lived in JV for a very long time, raised her children, was active in her church, and had a fulfilling career. She looks back on these years fondly, but now her children are grown with families of their own, and over the years, friends have moved away for various reasons, and her long, successful career had ended. She looked forward to spending this well-earned time of retirement with her husband of many years. Sadly, her husband passed away a few months before JVSO launched. She said that day, what she said to us that day affirmed one of the many reasons why we created JVSO. I asked her this morning if I could quote her, and she said absolutely. And this is what she said on that very first chilly day. I want to really thank you all for starting the senior group because I was so excited to be able to write something on my calendar and something to look forward to because it had been so empty. These are our neighbors and these are our friends. So to summarize, I personally am extremely pleased with how well things are developing, and just in the last 2 months, this has become a vibrant organization. This could not be done without the support of the city, as well as the commitment and very hard work of a very fantastic steering committee and their subcommittees. This is just the beginning for JVSO, and we're excited about the next steps. And anybody here who wants to learn more about it, just look at jvso.org or talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. How old do you have to be for the bus trip to Messina Hoff, just for clarification? We'll talk later.
I may be interested in those direct services.
I'll drive.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll move into item D on our agenda this evening, City Manager's Report. Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, the City manager's report is before you this evening, but there's two things I would like to touch on. We talked about it briefly during the workshop that happened before that, but we have a lot of new faces out in the crowd, so I'd like to highlight that again. Would like to touch on the White Oak Bayou project for a brief moment. On the agenda for tomorrow at the County Commissioners Court is an item for the White Oak Bayou project. The agenda item is to authorize negotiation for deepening and widening of the White Oak Bayou from Tidwell to 1960. This includes the bayou through Jersey Village. It's just the E100, but not the E127. But in speaking with Flood Control District today, they anticipate the design process to take about a year and the construction process to take a year or so as well. So we should see progress happening on that in 2019. Also, earlier today, I spoke with the Texas Water Development Board about the status of our grant application to elevate the 17 homes. As a reminder, only $90 million was allocated nationwide for these types of projects. Our total grant request was $3.35 million, or nearly 4% of the total grant amount available. I was informed that our project has been selected and has been identified for further review, which means that over the next 2 months they're going to be giving the project another look before formally awarding the funds, likely in the May timeframe. And in the meantime, between now and then, the state will be readying the contracts necessary with the city to issue the funds once it is approved. So within the next 3 to 6 months, the first phase of the elevation project should begin to move forward. Both these are very exciting pieces of the long-term flood recovery plan, and I'm just very excited that these are happening for us here in Jersey Village. So with that, I know we have some officer introductions on the city manager report, so I'd like to turn this over to the chief if I may.
Mayor, Council, we got 3 officers to introduce to you this evening, and we'll start with Officer Brent Zatkins. Brent, stand up for me. You might recognize the last name. We had Mark give us his son for service, so we're very thankful to have him. Been with us a couple of years as a dispatcher, went through the academy. We were actually very fortunate to teach him in the academy, so we're very happy to have him on board. No nepotism, they don't work on the same shift, so we're good there. Thank you, Brent. Next to him, Dusty, if you would stand up, Dusty Bryant. We're very glad to have Dusty on board with us, 12-year officer and former chief of police, mainly in the northeast part of Texas, but we're glad to have him, an advanced peace officer, and he's done a lot of good work for us already, so we're very thankful to have Dusty on board with us. Dusty Bryant. And next to him, Frank Kobus, if you would stand up, Frank. We're very glad to have Frank on board with us. Got him from Precinct 4, a 2-year officer with them. About 15 years in security work, graduate of the University of Houston downtown, so we're glad to have him on board as well.
Mayor and Council, that's all we have. We're happy to answer any questions the council might have, though.
Any questions for Austin from council? Very good. Thank you, Austin. Welcome, officers. Good to have you guys aboard. I'll move us into the consent agenda. Item E in our agenda this evening. Does anybody wish to remove the single item from the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda? Seeing none, looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, any abstentions, motion carries. Item F on our regular agenda this evening. F1, consider resolution number 2018-11, receiving and accepting the 2017 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Isabel Cato, Finance Director.
Yes, Mayor. Robert Belt is here from Bill Harris Peshasik, and he's here to answer questions and make a small presentation of the CAFR.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here with you this evening to present the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the year ended September 30th, 2017. Before jumping into the report, I first want to recognize management and administration for all the work that they've done behind the scene to allow us to come in and be able to conduct your audit for you. And I want to also thank Council for engaging our firm. It's an honor to be here. I've spent my 30-year career auditing city governments. We represent approximately 45 cities throughout the state of Texas and 150 governmental entities. In Harris County, we represent 20 of the 26 cities, including Pasadena, Baytown, as long as the Harris County Appraisal District, 911 District, University of Houston, and the Sports Authority, just to name a few of the governments we work with. Just jumping into your report real quick, first of all, I want to talk about the 2016 report. Very honored to report to you, as you probably already know. You were the recipient of the Government Finance Officers of the United States Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. There's only a few governments across the United States that receive this very prestigious award, and so it's an honor for you to have that. And we again believe this report will also conform to their criteria. Our independent auditor's report is presented over on page 13. Very pleased to announce it's an unmodified report. So that's the highest level of assurance that we can give the City Council that all the disclosures required by generally accepted accounting principles have been included and the financial statements are materially correct. I'm going to jump over to some financial highlights to you real quick. Hope I don't engage the laptop over here. There's a tremendous amount of financial data within the report. Again, I'm just going to jump over just a few highlights to you. Over on page 36 and 37 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and governmental funds. This presents a snapshot of the overall operations of the city for the year ended September 30th, 2017. In the far left-hand column is the general fund. Revenues for the year came in at $13,965,000 in the general fund. Expenditures were $11,258,000. You had other financing sources and uses that netted out to $140,000, giving you a positive increase in fund balance in the general fund of $2,847,000. You began the year with a fund balance of $14,507,000 and ended the year with a fund balance of $17,354,000. As you know, that fund balance number is very important because that's what the financial rating agencies look to determine the overall financial health of the city. Typically, they're going to be looking at your fund balance as a percentage of your operating expenditures for the year. Generally, they recommend you have a minimum of 2 to 3 months of expenditures on hand, and the city is well in excess of that, almost approximately 1.5 years worth of expenditures on hand. No, the city has a number of designated purposes or planned purposes for that, but the fund balance is very healthy for a city of this size. Over on page 40, I'm going to jump over to page 44. This is for your business type activities. You have two different business type activities that we account for, and the first is being the water and sewer, and the second being the golf course. And know this golf courses are often a very hotly debated topic and don't have any weighing in one way or the other than just report the results of the operation. In your water and sewer fund, if you look towards the bottom of the page, you had a net income or net increase in cash flow for the year of $535,000. And then in the golf course operations, you had a net increase in cash flow for the year of $28,000. So the golf course was making money on a cash basis for the year. Over on page 43, it's the same statement, but this is a full accrual basis of accounting. The primary difference here is we also take into account depreciation on the assets. That's where we record the assets and depreciate it over the life of the asset. And on this base of accounting, the water and sewer came in at $535,000 positive increase, and the golf course lost money by $242,000. However, that includes a depreciation, a non-cash outlay of $334,000. Going to point a few more items to your attention, jumping very far back in the report, back over to page 70 and 71. This is the budget to actual presentation for your general fund. Again, you're the largest and most important fund of the city. The far right-hand column represents the variance with your final amended budget. Revenues came in a strong $2 million greater than what was anticipated. Expenditures came in under what were anticipated by $1.4 million, almost $1.5 million, giving you a positive budget variance of almost $3.5 million. You had planned a reduction of $770,000, and you had a positive increase of $2.7 million, again resulting in that change. If you accomplished all the programs or your objectives you'd set out for at the beginning of the budget year and management was able to come in at that number, that's an excellent budget variance to have all the way around. That concludes my remarks. More than happy to entertain any questions City Council may have.
Any questions from City Council in regard to the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report?
It's, my question is a simple one. Is the city's financial situation better than it was 1 year ago today?
It's much better.
Thank you.
Did we had a pretty large increase in net cash. I guess that excess revenue over expenses. Is there an accounting of perhaps things that we didn't get to in that fiscal year that those funds rolled over into this year, or does that take that into account when we look at these numbers, or that increase, that cash increase?
No, it is only what you were obligated to expend. So if you had incurred a contract and received the goods or services, we included it in the 2017 fiscal year. But if the goods or service had not been provided, it either rolled over 2018 or it didn't occur.
So for instance, if we planned on doing a street project for $1 million and we funded it in the budget, but we didn't get to it in that fiscal year and it rolled over, would our net cash increase by $1 million?
Correct. That expenditure would not show up, and therefore your fund
Okay.
balance would increase, cash would increase as a result of that.
Okay.
If I understood your statement earlier correctly, does the city operate on an accrual basis or cash basis for accounting purposes?
Give it to you every way you want it. There's several different bases of accounting within this document. The first is it's presented on the full accrual base of accounting, as just like any other businesses would operate, and that's also what your business type activities, the enterprise fund, the water and sewer, the golf course, they use that consistently. What's a little bit different is when you get into the governmental funds, we present it to you on a modified accrual basis, which is almost more like saying cash, plus we recognize some current receivables and some current liabilities. The reason why that's important is because City Council is in control of the expenditures. Your budget is where you set that control. You have to be able to adopt a base of accounting by which you can control the expenditures. So in the accrual base of accounting, a purchase of a police car is not an expense, but on the modified accrual base of accounting, the purchase of a police car is an expense. And so that's why there's a difference in the accounting. So both numbers are presented in the document to give it to you every way you'd want to see it. And then also with the water and sewer fund and the golf course fund, we also present a cash base of accounting to actually show you the cash number change as well.
When I was looking this over earlier, one of the things I was interested in, of course, was looking at the net position of the city. It appears from 2016 to 2017, we increased our total assets from $104 million to $107 million. But at the same time, we also decreased our total liabilities from $29 to $27 million for a total net position of $81 million for the city. Just from your a net position of that dollar amount and where we are as our assets and liabilities, basically our financial statement, what can we draw from a statement like this for a city of our size and our resources?
I think you have a very healthy, obviously you have a very healthy city. Your liabilities are only a small percentage of your overall assets. You have a large amount of funds under your control. Some of those are in the form of streets, drainage, and things like that. But you're in very good financial shape.
This might not be an appropriate question for you. If not, just say so. But we handle the golf course as an enterprise fund, and there's some debate as to whether it should be a governmental fund. Do you have a position on that?
I do. Recording anything in an enterprise fund is optional. So if you don't want to put it in there, the city just makes the decision, we don't want it that, and you put it back into a governmental fund. However, my personal thought is by keeping it in an enterprise fund, you get to see the activity segregated out. You get to see everything. It's fully transparent. That's what's going on. You get to see the numbers on a full accrual cash basis, and I think that information is helpful in the public policy discussions about the operations of the golf course, whatever that may be.
Thank you.
Speaking of the enterprise funds, when we were looking at pages 43 and 44, and if I heard you correctly, was page 44 under a cash basis and 43 was an accrual basis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Can you recap the golf course fund? I think you said that there was a loss of about, I kind of got my numbers confused there when you were talking. So can you recap the that fund balance as well as the depreciation that was taken into account?
Absolutely. I'll just kind of go over, back on page 43 is the full accrual basis accounting for the golf course operation. Revenues for the year came in at $1,281,000. Operating expenditures came in at $1,873,000. Again, I'm just going to highlight one number above that, which is the depreciation that we talked about a moment ago, was $334,000. There was a net loss on the operation of $592,000. And then a operating transfer in of $346,000 to give a net loss of $242,000 for the year. You began the year with a net position of $2,932,000, and you ended the year with a net position of $2,690,000.
Any other questions or comments? Very much. We're still on item 1. We've got resolution number 2018-11 for consideration. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2018-11.
There's been a motion, seconds, or any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 2, consider ordinance number 2018-06, approving revision number 3 to the city's personnel policy to begin April 1st, 2018, providing for severability and providing for appeal. Trelina Collins, Human Resources Generalist.
Good evening. So here presented, since the personnel policy was adopted January 1st, 1998, it has since been amended twice. This will be the third revision to the personnel policy, making substantial circumstances and changes within the personnel policy. For the honorable mentions here, the emergency management staffing policy was additionally a standalone policy. We have included it in the personnel policy. And one of the main things to bring up out is how we are paying our exempt employees throughout that emergency management period, okay? And basically what we're gonna move towards is they're gonna get paid for any time over their normal working hours down to what their actual hourly pay would be. So anytime over their actual normal hours, they'll get paid an hourly rate for those additional hours that they work throughout those emergency management staffing situations. Additionally, we substantially changed the FMLA policy. It is just completely in line with current FMLA guidelines. We took it directly from the FMLA guidelines and policies. Outside of that, we did not have a weapons policy present in our personnel policy at all. So one has been concluded and added, and it has been ran by our city attorney and has been approved. The harassment policy has been substantially updated as well. That has also been ran by city attorney and approved. Computer use has been added as well. Bob did work diligently on getting us the most important things that he saw fit to protect our servers and things of that sort in order to protect the city from, you know, the things that are happening outside, inside of hacking and things of the sort that we just probably were not aware of or prepared for. So these substantial changes will have been affected and added into the policy as well. And then additionally, moving towards more circumstances changes would be a mother-friendly worksite policy, where we are making sure that our mothers who are nursing are provided the efficient space in order to do what they're needing to do throughout that time and period, and making sure that it's safe and clean and available to them throughout that time. Any other changes were just grammatical, content-wise, they were not substantial. The only ones substantial will be the ones here listed that you will see given to you in our agenda here.
Okay, any questions for Trelina or staff?
I kind of briefly went through this, and I think an employee handbook is a living, breathing document and needs to be updated quite often. One of the things I noticed that we didn't have a drug policy. For cause, post-accident, pre-employment. Do we have that somewhere else, or is that?
So currently there is not an actual pre-employment process set up, but we will get into that when I get to the NeoGov portion, because that's actually something that's going to be concluded in the benefit of the city for us to be able to track those pre-employment phases for our employees.
I have to apologize. I'm looking at your eyes like I really didn't quite understand everything you said.
In chapter, I'm using my fingers to also scroll. So the alcohol and illegal drugs provision under conduct, have you reviewed that section?
I did read that. I didn't. I guess my point was I think there are. I had some other notes. I think there are some things that would enhance the handbook, and unless there's a legal reason why you wouldn't implement that, I think that perhaps a comprehensive review of the policies and procedures in the handbook would probably be appropriate. And I know that in my profession, drug testing is mandatory across the board, and that seems to be that and safety are the two areas that the refineries and the big corporations are really focusing on. So I was just a little surprised that a post-accident drug test isn't mandatory, or I think everything's at the discretion of the city manager. But I think that there may be appropriate to incorporate some additional policies and procedures.
From a policy perspective, you have a couple of options. One is to have a personnel policy that is fairly broad, and then you can have standalone policies. So it's really within your discretion to say that you'd like to have the personnel policy include more specifically those types of policies.
We have personnel policies addressing some of the things I brought up.
I'm sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I looked at this, so I'm looking back to see what is included in this policy. You know, it depends on the focus of the city and whether or not there's a history with types of incidents that concerns the city or liability. In the case, like you said, of post-accident testing, there are some provisions, of course, for people that are regulated in types of jobs that are regulated by federal laws where you have to have certain types of drug testing. So the fact that it's not in your policy, you're still going to have those types of testing in order for certifications to be maintained in licenses that require those types of testing. So that's something certainly we can take a more deep dive into, but that wasn't our focus, so to speak, in this review.
I believe the drug testing after an accident is covered in our vehicle accident review policy. I believe that's where that piece of that is covered.
Yeah, I don't mean to belabor the point. I bring that up as an example because anything that's discretionary can be discriminatory, in my opinion. So if you're involved in an accident, I send you for a drug test, and Gary's involved in an accident, I don't because he's older. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Seasoned. You were looking for the term seasoned and experienced.
I like a lot of clarity in these handbooks. So my comment as a council member is that perhaps there are other areas that we need to look at and perhaps add and clarify, because in the end it's for the employees, and this book is a living, breathing document. It's a guide for their employment. It's important to cover those things, in my opinion. So
those revisions can definitely be looked at and included. So I'll look through that this week and get it over to you, okay?
Any other questions? Looking for a motion on the ordinance.
I move we approve ordinance number 2018-06.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 3, consider ordinance number 2018-07, amending the city's general fund budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018 by transferring $11,500 from 3055-201-13-4504 to cover costs associated with the NeoGov service for HR software, authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement with NeoGov and providing for severability. Trelina Collins, Human Resources.
So as you guys know, most of our HR policies and things that we take out on a day-to-day basis are completely manual, and there's not a way to track many of the moves and things that we do make, pre-employment all the way through termination of any employee. So the NeoGov here, I've already provided you guys a justification for the things and the benefits to the city by us obtaining this software from NeoGov. Currently, applications are filtered in via email. I go through each individual application, I scroll them, I screen them, and then depending on what they hold, the experience and things of this sort, I manually send each individual application over to each individual hiring manager. After someone has been spotted or decided that they want to be interviewed, we pull those people, we get them in, and at that point, if they're not chosen, there's just really no way to track where they stopped in the process. So one of the things that NeoGov will be able to provide to us is an actual tracking system of every single employee who decides to apply for any job with the city of Jersey Village. This also allows us to stay in compliance with the Equal Opportunity Act, where we're able to make a decision and pull those voluntary questions that they do answer, gender, sex, things of that sort. So we can keep up with that. Another thing would just be the review process. Right now we're using TML, or we'll use the JV website to post our job postings. And that works okay, but that's not really getting us the type of exposure that we need to pull in those quality candidates. So I've been also using Indeed.com, and if anyone who's ever used Indeed.com knows that they do not do proper screening of those individuals before they send it to us. I gave you all a glimpse of the process for a job that I hired for in December of 2017, just breaking it down to you out of 300 applicants, how it really came down to about 5 or 6 quality people to even bring in to interview, and most of them we could not afford. So those would be things that we would not have to worry about if NeoGov was able to properly screen those individuals before they got to us, and allowing us to have also the exposure via the governmentjobs.com website, which gives us the exposure to anyone who's looking for a government job across the board. They are one of the #1 websites for government job postings. Moving forward from there, the new hire process. Currently, I print about 146 pages per new hire. They come in to me, and I go through each page with them manually. I would be able to get all of their W-4, direct deposit, and new hire stuff taken care of before they even touch base on their first day, in order to keep from pulling them away from their job for their additional hour or hour and a half. That would be able to be done before they even step foot for their first day of work. It also takes a bit of the pain off of the employee when I send them away from me with this huge packet of paperwork, and I tell them you have 30 days to get it back to me. Okay, so that is something else that I can keep up with. I also can send notifications to all of the hiring managers. I can tell you where each person stopped in the process, and I can give you an update. In the future, we also have a lot of people who if they leave the city, and we have other cities who reach out to us to get information from them on why we did not hire them and where did they stop, we usually cannot provide anything other than date of application. I'll be able to provide all of that information with this software additionally. Everyday activities will be able to be done by the employee, engaging them to take control of their own information. W-4s and things of that sort will be able to be inserted by the employee. It would shoot to me, I would approve it, and then it would go into the system for processing. I spoke to you about the job screening and the applications of things, providing us more quality candidates. We have dashboards. We can run multiple reports. Right now, I run reports on more of a manual basis, which means I can't just go in and pull it. I have to actually put in the information and tell it what kind of information to put in there for me, and I cannot store those reports. So I would be able to create these reports on a dashboard to where they can run on a regular basis for me and to report them out to any person who needs them at any point in time. And from there, all in all, the software can streamline our hiring and onboard process. It can alleviate lost time, extra labor, chance of human error, and bring us up to speed with the current HR industry standards. Make things easier to maintain, protection of pertinent documents and moving them from tangible to e-files. Currently, we are still in a building that is substantial and subsequent to flooding. All of these files that I have sitting on the floor can very much be gone today or tomorrow if we don't move them to a safer place. This will allow us to bring things from more tangible to an e-file where it will always be backed up and able to be accessed in the future. And that is it.
Thank you, Trelina. So, in essence, by implementing this software, if I'm understanding correctly, it's going to do a couple things, but in just kind of broad terms, we're looking at software that is going to, if I'm understanding correctly, make some of the tasks you're already conducting simpler and easier, for sure. As well as as I'm reading through this, it seems like it's going to add additional capabilities to our HR department. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Which, in essence, would save time and effort on our staff's behalf, correct?
And free me up to do more amazing things for the city.
And we're always on board with making staff's job easier and helping them out.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Trelina or staff?
Austin, I know we've discussed at one point that a potential future upgrade to Encode might include some additional functionality from an HR perspective. To what degree does this overlap with that additional functionality?
Everything that you can do in this software will automatically integrate to the new Encode software, Encode or the upgraded Encode software. So it doesn't really overlap because this is all of the onboarding, the application to onboarding, and Encode really kind of takes over from once they're actually an employee on day one. So this is kind of all that pre-employment stuff, and all the information that they submit there will seamlessly transfer into the new version of Encode.
And I'm assuming this is a hosted application, so we don't have to install anything and maintain anything from our side, right?
Correct. It's all hosted and web accessible.
And if I could add also, so all the applications for applicants that don't get hired, you have data on them as well where you can run a report. So that gives you sort of benchmarks to look at in terms of who's applying for what, where they're coming from, and all that type of information that you could use to analyze things that you might not have the capability to do right now.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion on the ordinance.
I move we approve ordinance number 2018-07.
I'll second.
There's a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 4, consider resolution number 2018-12, adopting a wellness plan for city employees. Austin Blease, City Manager.
Tonight, we're requesting the council approve a formal employee wellness plan for all city employees. There are several benefits that can be realized from a wellness program, which include a reduction in sick leave, a reduction in absenteeism, a reduction in injuries, both workplace and non-workplace, reduction in healthcare costs, and improvement in employee morale and improvement in productivity. The Employee Wellness Program can be implemented with little cost to the city, and the majority of the educational materials and support networks that are being proposed are free for the city to use from our health insurance company. We are proposing to provide swim passes for employees only during the pool season, as another way for the employees to get out and get exercise and be healthy. Our health insurance already offers a Healthy Initiative incentive program that provides a $150 check to employees if they complete the program. Right now we have a dismal rate of usage of this program, which is less than 10%. There are various things that are required for employees to do to participate in the program. That includes some blood screenings, body measurement checks, which are offered to all employees for free at City Hall once a year. For this upcoming year, it's coming up on June 26th. And they can do it for free with our primary care physician as well. There's also an assessment that people go online and can take as part of that. So depending upon an employee's age and risk factors, there may be things that they need to go to their primary care physician for, but the cost of that visit are all covered 100% by the health insurance. Doing these preventative screenings is key to catching health problems early and correcting them today before they become a more expensive health insurance claim in the future. One of the things that the Affordable Care Act allows employers to do is to provide incentives that reward for participation in the wellness program. The reward must not exceed 30% of the cost of employee-only health insurance coverage. As such, we're proposing as part of this plan a health initiative health insurance rate. In order to qualify for this rate, an employee must complete the Healthy Initiative Incentive Program that's offered through the health insurance provider and provide proof of successful completion to Human Resources. The Healthy Initiative rate would be 5% of the employee-only health insurance coverage cost, which is what we currently have it at today. The standard rate of health insurance for an employee only who does not complete the incentive program would be 25%. In talking with other communities and trying to tie in health insurance rates to these types of screenings is the best way to get employees to participate in them, with some cities seeing closer to 95 to 100% 100% in participation because of the insurance rate differences that they would pay if they don't participate. So tonight we're asking for council to approve the Jersey Village Wellness Plan.
So one of the questions I have about when we're speaking with other communities about the health insurance and these wellness programs, so we see apparently there's an uptick in the percentage if it's tied to the health insurance rate. But did you get any feedback as to whether, in essence, the employees actually had a healthier lifestyle as a result as well?
That's most of them say that they do. They've definitely seen some decreases in sick time usage and those types of things. Various programs that other cities have done, like weight loss campaigns and that type of thing. Some cities have seen substantial weight losses in their employees and that type of thing, which means for healthier lives. So we've, every city's a little bit of a mixed bag depending upon how much gusto is behind the program. But I'm hopeful that this one will take off and be well.
If I'm reading this correctly, based on what the supplemental information you sent us regarding the incentive program, it doesn't look like there's any actual benchmarks they have to hit in terms of actual health. It basically, as long as you get screened, I can go out there and eat 3 chili cheese dogs every day, but as long as I get my cholesterol checked and I know it's at 300, then I get my incentive. I'm kind of wondering if, I don't understand exactly how this results in healthier employees necessarily. I mean, certainly knowing more about your health is one benefit, but I would think if we're going to offer an incentive of this type, that we probably need to integrate some actual metrics that demonstrate wellness.
HIPAA works against us in this case. I mean, you can't force an employee to give you their numbers and those types of things. You can't require them to meet certain benchmarks like cholesterol levels or those types of things.
Since it's a voluntary program, and maybe Leah can cover this, since it's a voluntary program, that the employee can, as part of participating in the coverage, couldn't they waive to a limited degree their HIPAA rights for this purpose?
They could provide a release so that the information could be reviewed for other purposes, but you're getting into some areas that actually probably create more problems than you're trying to solve. I would share with you, though, some of other client cities that I have. I know specifically of individuals who have, through blood testing and so on with these screenings, have identified prostate cancer, pre-diabetic conditions, and so on, that they caught early because of the screenings. And so I think Austin probably has several cities that say it saves you money because you're catching problems earlier. Even if the employee who is marginal doesn't lose weight and reduce their salt intake and so on, you may catch some pretty big chronic illnesses.
I guess my concern is I'm a little hesitant as stewards of taxpayer dollars to support a program that's going to create a $1,200 per year incentive per employee without some reasonable reassurances that this is actually going to either provide for a healthier workforce, which I think is valuable in and of itself, or without having some knowledge that there is have we looked into what savings there have actually been in insurance rates for cities that have implemented a similar program?
Insurance rates typically always increase, but it's just the amount of what would they increase. A couple of cities have seen some pretty small increases over the last few years. It definitely varies based upon the claim history of the community or the employees. A couple of bad cases can be $1 million real quick for some incidents.
My biggest concern is, it's 2018. There's some ways to verify at least a few things, like pedometers, maybe. I know that my wife's company, her health insurance program, their company, you cannot smoke. You're not allowed to smoke. I know hospitals do the same thing. I just have a problem with steps you sent were kind of really easy to do. It was basically, it's actually $1,300 a year benefit for essentially going to get the screenings you're supposed to get because you have insurance. I go so that I live. That's a good benefit. I just don't feel like it's a little too generous. But we just went through the health insurance rate, chat during budgeting. We've fixed that. And it feels like a really easy way to just kind of get this great health insurance rate for kind of just using your insurance how you're supposed to. Where is there a little more that we can do to actually verify that maybe people are actually acting a little healthier?
So that 5% rate is what it's at today. So if we made no changes to any health insurance rates at all, next year they'd still be paying 5%. This way we can make people encourage people to get the screenings and that type of thing. And if they choose not to, then they'll be paying 25%.
During the salary adjustment discussion, subsequent to that, there was a discussion of changing the city contribution rate. When do those changes go into effect?
Today, an employee-only portion of health insurance plan, the employee contributes 5%. That was made into effect on January 1 with the new health insurance plan. Before that, it was closer to 2%.
I think that this raises bigger questions on that front, because that is not my understanding of what City Council passed. I don't know if any other council members want to chime in on that.
The employee-only portion is 5%. They still pay additional percentage on the dependent health portion. So it's a total of employee health plus dependent health, not 5% across the board.
Right. So if you're a family on the plan, you pay 5% for the employee-only portion, and I believe it's 25% for the family portion.
I, for one, am all for it. Having, been a part of the health and wellness program at my employer, that I was one of those situations where I went and had tests done that I normally wouldn't have done, and it provided information that I needed to know. So, I think it's all about making the workplace somewhere where people want to come to work and enjoy their work. And I think this is a small way to be able to do that. We also do, and this may be something that we want to think about at some point, but we have little competitions between departments, who can eat the healthiest for the week, or who can grab a group of people and take a walk during lunchtime, or maybe we have walking meetings instead of sitting in a conference room for hours at a time. So I think it's a positive thing. I don't see it as being a cost to the city. To your point, Austin, I think it's actually a benefit, because you are reducing the sick time, and you're reducing people abusing the sick time by taking time off because they're not happy with being at work.
Well, look, I want our employees to be healthy and be well, but I just don't see how this plan does anything other than make them go get a test that they should be getting anyways, because they have insurance. That's my only thing. It's extremely beneficial in a financial standpoint, but I don't see it as extremely beneficial, at least the way I'm reading it and the steps that you guys sent me. I don't see anything. It doesn't, when it comes to smoking, we will provide educational materials. For $1,200 a month, I'll read all the pamphlets you can throw at me. I don't see anything concrete that will actually make employees, at least in the policy, at least in the program, that will make it our employees actually healthy, actually well.
I think you may have actually, in some of your comments, answered one of your questions. You had said that, and again, I'm inclined to support this well. I think there is some benefit to it. And I'll tell you that you made the comment that you don't see a benefit for somebody going to getting a test that they should be taking anyway. Well, the benefit is they're actually going to take the test, whether they should be doing it or not. And I do look at it this way. If we do get into a situation in which, because of these incentives, we do have several employees that go take a test they otherwise wouldn't have taken, and they do discover a very dangerous cancer not only will that help the employee, but that would save the city a significant amount of money, especially if they caught it early. I think that there is a lot of benefit to this. I feel as if we do put together a program that does encourage a healthy city staff, that it will actually benefit the community as a whole, benefit the residents, benefit the taxpayers. I completely understand that there might be some cost concerns with it. Are the incentives a little bit generous? Perhaps, but I think at the end of the day, I think that this does encourage something that at the end of the day would be a net benefit for the community and for the city government.
That's great. Maybe I got the math wrong. Am I reading this incorrectly, that benefit is that much? Because I was reading the materials. What's that? That
per employee per year.
That's within $4 of what I got. What was the previous program? Gave you a $150 check. That was it.
You would still be able to get a $150 check if you complete these screenings, but we have about 8% of the employee population that do that.
I was reading through the plan. If I join the plan today, what do I have to do in order to qualify for that discounted employee-only rate?
So, since we do not have this employee healthy initiative rate in effect for this plan year, you need to do all the incentives, the incentive checklist, and then you would get the incentive rate for the next calendar year.
The incentive checklist. Is that here? Did I miss that?
I'm sorry, that's not in the packet. I did send it out on Friday to the council. It's things like your cholesterol screening, blood glucose, heart rate, blood pressure, some basic things.
And how often is that?
Annually.
Annually. So I have a tendency to agree with Andrew that for $1,300, I'll get a doctor appointment for an hour. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to participate in that program year-round. I think in any program, any incentive needs to be some accountability. And potentially, we're talking about a $100,000 program here. I mean, if a lot of people participated.
But the 5% is what people pay today. So the 95% is what the city pays today. The city's not going to spend any more next year without this, or any less next year without this. But this way we have a mechanism in place to encourage people to go get these tests done. And if they don't do it, then they're going to pay more for their health insurance.
But if they do participate, then we will pay more.
We'll pay the same amount we pay today. The 5% that we pay today.
It's be correct to say that this is affecting the employee portion?
Right, it's the employee portion. Right now, the employees pay 5% of the employee-only coverage for their plan. If they get these tests, then next year they can keep paying that 5%. If they don't get these tests, next year they're going to pay 25% of the employee-only portion. So it's not a cost to the city. It's more a cost to the employee in order to get them to participate and do these types of things. And to Councilor Mitchum's point about pedometers and that type of thing, we want to look at that. That's something we want to do. We didn't have nearly enough time or anything to get that in place for this one. And that's why we're suggesting part of the reason we're suggesting 20%, because that gives us 10% more to play with for other initiatives. For pedometers, you meet so many steps or so many different metrics points in a quarter or a year's time or that type of thing. So we definitely want to look at that and include that at a later point in time. But the 20% is what most cities said that they had to get to in order to get people to actually take the tests. 10%, they said it wasn't a big enough impact to people for them to really even want to go to the doctor still to get these tests.
Okay, thank you. That answered the question.
I don't understand. If we got a $500 premium and the employee pays, let's say $100, and we give them a discount, who's going to make up? I'm missing something on the difference here. You say that it doesn't cost the city anything. It costs the employee less.
So right now, if the premium is $100 and the employee pays $5, next year the premium is going to be $100, the employee is going to pay $5 still if they do all these tests. If they don't do these tests, the employee is going to pay $25.
So these numbers, in essence, are not part of the city's portion, then they're part of the employee's portion.
Part of the employee's.
Again, all the dollar amounts we've been talking about to this point is the employee's portion, not the city's portion.
Correct. So the employee's portion would go from 5% up to 25%.
So in essence, if they don't participate, then the city pays less?
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, okay, please go get your tests. I think I was just confused on the math here. So.
Are there any other questions regarding this resolution?
Here's my concern, and part of this may be that the fact that when we were holding the meeting regarding the new insurance rates, I know that we discussed both during the budget work sessions regarding equalization of salaries, as well as in October when we did the insurance rates. I know there was a lot of discussion over, yes, we can look at doing salary adjustments based on the market, so to bring our employees up to an average of the area, but that because of the fact that the survey revealed that they were receiving a far greater contribution to their health insurance than those other cities, that we were going to equalize both. And I know that when I'm actually digging back through the minutes and through what we worked on, I know that we adjusted those numbers on the fly. I think the bigger issue I'm concerned with here is whether or not City Council's vote is accurately reflected in our current policy. And I know that that's a big Pandora's box to open at this point, but I think we need to make sure we understand that correctly. Because I don't remember us simply adjusting from whatever it was, 2% employee contribution to 5%. I thought it was much closer to a 25% contribution.
I think the emphasis, and my emphasis, was that the employee is our responsibility, and that we made a lot of concessions on the employee only. It's when you started added dependents that I felt that they needed to contribute a higher portion than they were previously, and I think it was 5. As a matter of fact, I saw it as you scrolled down. So I think the 5% is accurate.
So the employee pays 5% of $568.32 for the employee-only portion. Anything additional that it costs to have a dependent, they pay an additional percentage of that. So 5% of $568.32, additional 20% for $1,177. So that total is what the employee pays biweekly for their percentage. It is not 5% for employee plus family. It's 5% for employee only, 20% for the family portion addition, for a total of what the employee pays altogether.
So to answer your question, Councilman Warren, yes, we did make adjustments, but those adjustments were for additional family members and dependents. We left the employee portion, their percentage alone, but the discussion we're having this evening actually addresses specifically just that employee percentage. So that's where that 5% remains. Now, I will throw this out. I see that there's some additional, I don't want to use the word confusion, but I feel as if council could use a little more information. Was that fair to say? I think that we'd, from what I'm seeing from council, they'd like some additional information on this program, how it interacts and how it works with our adjusted employee percentages. Am I getting kind of a general feel that council's looking for some more information?
Yeah, I would like to see more information regarding what other cities are doing. I think it would be also worthwhile for us to look into the private sector to see what's being done in terms of particularly the benchmarks that need to be met and the amount of the incentives. I assume this would not go into effect. This ultimately would not impact anything until the next insurance year. I honestly think that as part of that, I would like to see us revisit because if I remember correctly, the market rates that we were looking at were not simply for dependents. I think it was also for employees. I know I bet if you talk to a lot of people in the audience today, a lot of them don't get anything quite as generous as a mere 5% contribution from their paycheck to their, even as an employee. I would like to see them overall revisit that market question to ensure, because my understanding was that we were going to equalize everything out, and it sounds like what happened was we raised salaries, but we just barely moved the needle on health insurance.
We did a lot of health insurance. We can certainly revisit, but to your point, Mayor, I think that we could probably revisit this, just maybe table this and revisit it at a later date.
So let me ask this. I would like for council to take action on this when they have the right information. I don't want any council member to have to feel like they're having to take action on this without having all the necessary and required information. So with that, I see that we've got several council members who still are requiring some additional information. Does any council member, Councilman Warren, you've already announced some of the things you are interested in reviewing. Does any other council member have any additional requests from staff, any additional information, any additional data they would require to make a decision on this matter?
No, but I would request perhaps a new employee packet. Maybe just send it to us for review, just so that we have that basic information. It may answer a lot of our questions.
I'll send it out to you all tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so again, I mean, from my perspective, I feel this is a worthwhile program, but I would like for council members to have all the data information they need to make an educated decision, an educated vote. For our purposes procedurally, Leah, do we need to take no action on this, or do you recommend a tabling?
I think it would be more appropriate to have a motion to table for additional information.
Okay. Looking for a motion to table on the resolution.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
I'll make a motion to table until next regular session meeting.
I'll second.
A motion and second, is that specific enough? It's been a motion and second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Resolution number 2018-13, setting Saturday, May 19th, 2018 at 9 a.m. as the date and time for the annual council staff budget retreat. Austin, please. No, Lori. Austin, go ahead.
So every year after the May election, staff meets with council in a retreat setting to discuss the financial condition of the city. During this retreat, in addition to receiving information about the overall condition of the city, council receives information about the accomplishments achieved since the last retreat, supplemental requests being made for the upcoming budget year, short-term concerns for the city with a review of both short and long-term incentives, and departmental presentations. So this item is to set the retreat date for Saturday, May 19th at 9 a.m. as the date and time for the annual council staff budget retreat.
All right, it's that time of the year, everybody. Let's pull out our calendars. May 19th. Do you have any conflicts?
I have a conflict.
Golf doesn't count as a conflict, Gary. So we do have one conflict at on May 19th. Anybody else? Do you have any proposed other dates?
The Saturday before, the Saturday after.
I'm sure one of those Saturdays is Memorial Day weekend.
Saturday before is Mother's Day. Or Sunday before
That's
is Mother's Day.
Mother's Day's weekend is the 12th and 13th. Any other suggestions, comments? May 19th, is everybody good on this side? You want to make a proposal, we change it to May 12th?
Sure.
May 12th. Thoughts, comments, observations? Angry mothers.
Can we perhaps
Angry wives.
Can we perhaps on Sunday just make it a little later start? We do our Mother's Day stuff in the morning.
Here's my concern, just from a council composition standpoint. I think we have a later agenda item to certify the election and swear in a new council member immediately following this new date that we're looking at. I would assume, since this is for the budget for the following year, we would probably want whoever our new council member is to be the one that would be participating in that discussion. So it makes sense to have it after certification and swearing in of that person.
And you make a good point, Councilman Warren, because if you look at the next agenda item, May 14th, we're looking to change the regular city council meeting just for that so we can swear in a new city council member. I think it would be defeating to have a budget retreat without that member present. So I think the 19th is the earliest we can do it.
Put it on 19th.
and I don't know how kosher it would be to ask this, we have both the guys on the ballot here. Does that work for y'all too, hypothetically? Okay, just to be sure.
What, the 19th? Okay, so we have May 19th. Councilman Wubenhorst is grudgingly agreeing to the 19th over here. Any other comments or questions on setting May 19th? All right, looking for a motion on the resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution number 2018-13.
I second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6, consider resolution number 2018-14, rescheduling the Monday, May 21st, 2018, the regular city council meeting for Monday, May 14th at 2018 at 7 p.m. Lori Cootie.
Yes, Mayor. This item is to reschedule the May 21 City Council regular session meeting to May 14 in order to accommodate the canvass. It's been the tradition of the City of Jersey Village to canvass the election on the second Monday after the election, and at that time we give the oath of office and install all the new officers. We do have to do the canvass no later than 11 days following the election. So the appropriate day or the good day for this would be on May 14. So this resolution is to change that date.
Any questions for Lori? Any concerns with changing the regular session meeting to May 14th? Seeing none, looking for a motion on the resolution.
I move we approve resolution 2018-14.
My second.
There's been a motion second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 7, consider resolution number 2018-15, authorizing the city to apply for a grant from the Texas Division of Emergency Management for a grant to reduce flooding risk. Austin Blease.
As part of the disaster recovery funds from Hurricane Harvey, FEMA is funding a Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or HMGP, which is being administered by the state of Texas through the Texas Division of Emergency Management, or TDEM. This program is a mitigation grant with a single mission to provide financial assistance to eligible applicants to prevent or reduce future losses to lives and property through the identification and funding of cost-effective mitigation measures and to minimize the costs of future disaster response and recovery. There are several types of projects that are eligible to apply for funding under this funding announcement. The state has prioritized funding for non-localized flood risk reduction projects, large-scale regional projects, and localized drainage and flood risk reduction projects to include retention ponds and stormwater sewer improvement. Based upon the notice of funding opportunity and the stated funding priorities, the city submitted a notice of intent to apply for grants for 2 projects. The first project is to improve the localized drainage in the Wall Street neighborhood to reduce the risk of flooding. This is a project the council has set aside engineering costs for in this fiscal year. The second project we submitted is for the berm project. The project would also be considered a localized drainage and flood risk reduction project. On February 27th, the state informed us we are an eligible applicant and our projects may be eligible for funding under this program. So they've invited us to submit a full application, which is due by June 30th, 2018. The funding could be up to 75% of the project costs for each project, or a total of $4,709,178. Total project costs are estimated at $6,278,904 for both projects. That's $800,000 for the berm project and the remainder for the Wall Street project. So that means the city would need to fund the remaining 25% of the project, which is $1.56 million. So tonight we're requesting the council to approve the following resolution authorizing the city manager to submit the applications to the state and committing to funding the 25% cost share of the projects.
Austin, let me ask you a question a little bit about timing. So we're working on identifying, of course, the berm project, some Wall Street projects. The discussion is pretty fluid right now. We're looking for just basically talking conceptually. However, some of this grant funding you're going out for is tied to that. Do you have enough specificity to apply for these grants? If not, when do we need to get you that specificity? Address kind of the timing issue with all these different things.
Absolutely. So right now, I believe we do have enough specifics to apply for these grants. I think the numbers, the budgetary numbers that we have are good for the grants that we have. If the budgetary numbers, when we actually go out to bid, come under, it's great. More projects can be done elsewhere then. But right now, I do believe we have what we need to know for these grants. As for a timing, Applications are due in June. Hopefully, we would have some type of funding notification by the end of the year, which means we might have a delay of a month or two in getting the projects actually completed, but I think we can do 95% of the work up until that point. To save 75% of the project cost, I think that's worth a chance.
Do you have a sense of what chances we would have of getting this?
So these two projects are both in the top two funding priorities for the state. To me, that means that we're high on the priority list for the state. We have to go through the whole FEMA benefit cost analysis, which is slightly more complex, just given the nature of the projects for these ones. I'm confident we can do a good job there. I'm confident the benefit cost analysis will come out positive and in our favor. So I'm confident we can prepare a really great grant application, and then it's just going to be up to the state to decide, to rank all those grants and how many people apply based upon the funding priorities. I know there's going to be a lot of competition, but I think we can do a really good job of submitting a grant application.
You're asking for us to commit to funding the 25% cost share, since I believe we've already committed to funding the 100% cost of it. Is this just superfluous, or am I missing something?
This would be formally committing on paper to the state that we will fund the 25% cost share.
Any other questions or comments for Austin? Seeing none, looking for motion on the resolution.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2018-15.
I'll second.
There's been a motion, second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8, discuss and take appropriate action concerning the delivery of services for residential curbside collection of household trash and recyclables. Kevin T. Hagerich, Director of Public Works.
Our current contract for residential curbside collection of household trash and recyclables with Waste Management Corporation of Texas. The contract began on 1 October 2015, and it will end this September 30th, 2018. Since this contract will expire this year, this item is to discuss the council's wishes for moving forward with the delivery of services for residential curbside collection of household trash and recyclables. There are two possible avenues for moving forward. One would be to authorize the city manager to negotiate a new contract with WCA, and the second one would be to direct the staff to go out for bid for these services. In considering these two options, the city attorney has directed that the city is not required to competitively bid waste collection services. Accordingly, staff recommends authorizing the city manager to negotiate a new contract with WCA. WCA has been the city's vendor for the past 9 years. During this time, they have provided the city with exceptional service, and their follow-up on complaints or other issues has been excellent.
Questions for Kevin? Kevin, so the contract we're under right now is a 3-year contract with WCA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if we were to move forward with WCA, we would be just renewing for another 3-year term?
That would be my recommendation, yes.
Does our contract also include the recycling, or is that a separate contract?
It's part of the same contract.
I see it. Yep, it's here. Okay. Any questions for Kevin?
Is this the same rate we're paying now for both recycling and waste disposal?
That's what the city manager would be part of the negotiations, but I'm sure that would be the start point.
And I assume we haven't had any discussions with them at all regarding terms of renewal? Have we done any market research to determine what other rates are out there, compared to what we're currently paying?
They actually have a fairly good market share in the metro area, and so I think, we could look at what the rates are, but the contract terms are pretty standard. They have sort of a standard contract that they use with cities. And so what may be different are rate mechanisms, meaning whether or not there are any standard things that will change the rates. And of course, with the recent flood activity, there are some cities that have added additional terms that deal with debris collection and things like that you only see when there's a major incident in the widespread nature that you've seen it in recent times.
The funny thing is, the first time I ever spoke in front of this city council was on this issue when we were considering recycling. And a question I had then is a question I have now. I just happen to be up here now, so I can, it probably carries, or at least there's a little more urgency probably to answer it. You know, when we began this program, this was the first time we had single stream recycling, where we were able to put pretty much anything that's recyclable in these large canisters. And at least anecdotally, I think that it's apparent that participation has shot way up over our old program. At the time, my question was, if we saw a tremendous increase in participation, my understanding based on what I've read is that waste disposal, non-recyclable waste disposal, is typically their costs and the overall economics is based off of the weight of the total amount of waste that they have to dispose, at least part of it. Obviously, number of households is a big part of it as well. And my question at the time was whether by having far greater success in the recycling program, if you reduce the total amount of waste that has to be picked up, perhaps even in the number of times that households put out trash so that they're able to do the route much more quickly with the recycling program, is there a possibility to quantify that in such a way to argue for a lower rate because of the fact that they are no longer picking up as much trash? They might not even need to make as many stops. I don't know if there's a way that, obviously this is data they would have and we wouldn't, so they would be at an advantage. But I guess maybe it's less of a question right now, more to a point. I would encourage us to look into that to the degree we can. The fact that we have engaged in the recycling program and presumably there's less waste created, and if that can garner us any economic benefits in a new contract.
Keep in mind too, though, we pay $11.58 per residential curbside collection. That's the cost of 2 days a week, correct? And $3.50.
That's correct.
$3.50 per month for recycling. So if you do the math on that, and I did, you basically, at least in my household, we have 2 recycle bins because we're just that green, I guess. We basically get a third. Yeah, thank you. That's that millennial participation trophy. All right. We basically get a third trash pickup day on our street for 60% of the price. So I think that's very beneficial, and the participation rate has absolutely increased, at least on our street. So take that into account too.
So for our purposes this evening, there's a couple different ways we could go. We could authorize the city manager to negotiate a new contract with WCA for curbside collection as well as for trash and recyclables, or we can direct them to go out for a bid for additional services. My recommendation is to authorize the city manager to negotiate a new contract with WCA. I would like to see, I think it should be a pretty vigorous negotiation. I think to Councilman Warren's comments, I think our recycling participation has increased significantly, but I would like to, authorize the city manager to negotiate a new contract with WCA. That'd be my recommendation.
I would agree.
Lee, as a legal matter, is there anything that prohibits us? Obviously we choose one or the other. Is there anything that prohibits us from doing any sort of market survey, contacting other vendors to get ideas to pricing?
No, there would be nothing wrong. I will tell you that because of the flood activity, if you went out for requests for proposals next week, you would get a number of proposals back. It's very competitive. And, the different cost structures in terms of how many pickup dates you have, how many routes there are, and how many times they're doing the routes. So I was thinking that when you brought that up, the fact that they have to do a route every Monday and Thursday, they don't really save certain equipment costs and so on because there's less garbage in the can, so to speak. So, but I do think that that's something you could explore without officially going out for a request for proposals in a short period of time. And I think that cities would more likely share what their deals are with you rather than the company telling you.
Well, obviously, I have no problem with at least trying to negotiate a new term with WCA, but I would definitely encourage us to ensure from a market perspective that it's still competitive. I will say in my experience, most in procurement, you usually get your best deals through a tender, but I also understand that time is money also, and that can be a lengthy process. So, but yeah, for now I'm willing to at least look at going back to them and renewing this contract.
Any other any other comments?
I was just going to make a motion. Okay. I make a motion that we direct Austin Blees to move forward with negotiating a contract with WCA.
Second.
There's been a motion, seconds. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 9, discuss and take appropriate action to eliminate the oil recycling station located in the rear parking lot of City Hall due to inappropriate dumping of hazardous materials. Kevin T. Haggerich, Director of Public Works.
Staff is requesting the City Council eliminate the oil recycling station located at the rear parking lot of City Hall. Several years ago, when recycling oil was an issue, a station was constructed and Public Works personnel dropped the collected oil off at a recycling center. That center has since closed, as many places today are available to drop off then have this service at no charge. With the oil recycling station initial purpose no longer needed, the oil recycling station located behind City Hall has become a depository for hazardous materials such as paint, lacquer, and the like. Consequently, over the years, city staff has been collecting and storing these hazardous materials, resulting in hundreds of cans requiring disposal. You may have remembered seeing those out at Public Works. This item has discussed the elimination of the recycling center. Should City Council approve its removal, staff will get proposals for the destruction of the current stored hazardous materials and bring the same back to City Council at a later date for approval and appropriation of the needed funds.
So just kind of getting to the heart of the matter, Kevin, is it your opinion that this oil recycling station has become more of a nuisance than an asset?
That's correct.
Are people still using it for oil recycling?
We're getting a few gallons of oil. We're getting a lot more paint and other hazardous materials.
And the taking of the hazardous material and the paint is taking city staff and time to go and properly dispose of those? That's correct.
What's your method of disposal? I mean, what's the cost to it?
That's what I'm requesting permission to pursue. We'll probably go with Stereocycle, who was the vendor we used during the tax day flood to get rid of the paints and hazardous material. We know what the rates are. We know that they know how to do the paperwork in accordance with TCEQ. They're probably our vendor. I know the fire department uses them for wet blood and what else? Just blood. They're a reputable company. So basically, I'd have to let them know how much of each type of material we have, what their cost is going to be to dispose of it, and then I'll bring it back to council and say, here's what the total package is going to be, and recommend that you either approve or disapprove.
And that's a one-time thing because we will have eliminated the disposal site, correct?
That's correct. If the guidance is to get rid of it, we're also going to put up a no dumping sign, so that would be enforceable.
Any questions for Kevin? Looking for a motion.
I move to direct Austin Blees to eliminate the oil recycling station located in the rear parking lot of City Hall.
I'll second.
One of the recommendations, there's been a motion and a second. One of the recommendations has been for the elimination of the recycling center, and then for city council and for staff to go out for proposals of the destruction of the currently stored hazardous materials, and then bring back a later date for approval and appropriation of the needed funds. Is that included in your motion?
I'll revise the motion. Move to direct the city manager to eliminate the oil recycling station located in the rear parking lot of City Hall and to take appropriate steps in order to negotiate a contract or whatever else is needed in order to safely dispose of the hazardous materials that have been collected through this station.
And who was it that made the second?
I'll second.
And you're fine? Okay.
Yes.
We have a revised motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 10. Discuss and take appropriate action concerning the proposal of Wallace and Marie Dillard, Family Partnerships Limited, to donate to the city a 2.1157 acre tract, 92,160 square foot parcel of land once it's developed as a multi-use location by the Great Age Movement. Christian Summers, our building official.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The property in question is a 2.1157 acre, 92,161 square foot parcel identified on HCAD as number 124. I won't read all that. It's the Dillard Detention Basin on Dillard Drive, just west of the Social Security building. The proposal for this property is for it to be donated to the city by the Wallace and Marie Dillard Family Partnership Limited after being developed as a multi-use location by same with the assistance of the Great Age Movement. The Greater Age Movement is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2016 whose goal is to build senior playgrounds throughout the greater Houston metropolitan area and public parks and provide volunteer programs that promote health, learning, and socialization. They will continue donation drives to support equipment upkeep, replacement, and site maintenance. Conceptually, the proposal will entail converting the detention basin to a retention basin / wetland area, installing docks and quays extending out from the shore into the new body of water, with platforms devoted to stretching, yoga, and meditation, construction of a covered pavilion, exercise equipment placed around the property, with a pathway circumnavigating the basin, and some parking spaces. This item is to consider the proposal and whether to direct city staff to proceed with negotiating terms for a privately financed multi-use development contingent on the city's being donated the property upon completion of the project as designed and with the city's acceptance. The design and agreement will be subject to city council consideration in the future if this comes to fruition. Any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Christian?
Who manages this development?
Once the city accepts it, we will manage it. It'll be a park.
So the park will be developed in conjunction with this Great Age Movement. So they'll fund the development of it, and then once its development is completed, it will be donated to the city to maintain going forward. And
that's correct, and they can
use.
continue to assist with donations for upkeep and maintenance. I have a gentleman here, Fritz J. McDonald Jr., who's with the Greater Age Movement, if you have any questions of him and how it works.
Yeah, Fritz, if you wouldn't mind, we'd like to hear a little bit about your organization and this proposal specifically.
As he stated, I'm Fritz J. McDonald Jr. I'm the founder and president of the Great Age Movement. And essentially, I'm a geriatric rehabilitation specialist. I've done it 17 years. I have a staffing business. And I've seen all aspects of a rehab from the hospital down to home health. And that's currently where I'm working. And essentially, there aren't enough programs out there in the community for seniors. So we actually started with Galveston County. They have the only senior playground in Texas. It's at Carbide Park. You can find this information on our website. And that playground has been there for about 3 years, but they don't have an actual program. So we're working with A&M University to establish a curriculum at this point, and then we'll be recruiting seniors to come to it and create a weekly schedule of exercises and then grow from there. We're also in talks with the city of Houston to fund playgrounds and make that a part of their parks. What's unique about this is the Dillards, I've known their daughter for about 15 years, and it was suggested to Mr. Dillard by his doctor to exercise, and they suggested, given that he's a developer, to establish a park. So he called me, and we reviewed the research out there, and currently LA is the only county that is considering building a senior park, which would have more elements besides playgrounds. And so we did further research. I don't know if you know this, but playgrounds for seniors have been around for 30 years in Europe and China. China actually made it a national law to have all seniors, work out in these designated areas to reduce costs on healthcare system and also improve socialization and give people purpose in the latter part of their life. And so we were blessed with this opportunity. They're interested in donating a piece of land, and we actually had our first fundraiser last year at the St. Regis with sponsorship by United Airlines, United Healthcare, Modern Luxury Magazine, the hotel themselves, and we raised over $50,000 in profit just on an idea. And since then, we've started this initiative I just mentioned about Galveston County with A&M University. And now we would like to pursue this park with the developers. And so, you know, 50,000 is not that much, but we're having our next luncheon this June at the Four Seasons. And now that we have more tangibles, we'll be able to raise more money, and we're going to specifically solicit to major corporate sponsors once we do a feasibility study and see if this retention pond can be converted into something functional. And I believe he mentioned that to maintain the volume of water, we'd have to put this on piers and platforms and stuff like that. And we looked at materials for low-cost maintenance that would include steel and concrete, and you know, minimizing costs over the years for the city of Jersey Village. Now, given that this would be the first senior park in America, this would definitely bring a lot of attention to Jersey Village itself, but also shed light on the fact that we need more of this in the United States. We can provide you further information, if you'd like, of articles and studies that have shown the impact it's had around the world for the last 30 years. We're just a little slow on initiating this, you know, in America. Now, there are some senior parks, and intergenerational parks, which includes ages from 20 all the way up to 100, in progressive cities like San Francisco, Seattle. United Healthcare is sponsoring 20 senior parks through Kaboom, which is a nonprofit that builds children's parks in Ohio. So it's catching on, but in Texas, there's just one, and it's near the refineries, and they're not getting a lot of attention, so we're going to help them initiate that. But this is a very ideal spot. I looked at the GPS on retirement centers around Jersey Village, and there's 22 of them. So I don't know if you know this, but most of these facilities, it's mandated by law to have a shuttle or a bus. So we want to collaborate with all these facilities to bring their able people to us and bring them out into the community.
Very interesting concept, Fritz. You know, you may not be aware that we've passed what we call our comprehensive plan, which is an all-encompassing document, kind of a visionary document about the future of the city. And one of the key components of that, of course, is parks, recreation, quality of life initiatives, things like that, which we're, as a community, we're highly focused on. So one of the questions I have is I'm looking at some of these renderings, and it's a very unique concept. How would you differentiate a senior park from, say, a traditional playground? We have a very active Parks and Recreation department. We're very well versed in the, you know, parks and park maintenance. How would you differentiate between the two?
Specifically on senior playgrounds, the equipment is actually designed for seniors with safety mechanisms, and also it's graded for ease for older people, and you can grade it up based on just certain levels, but it's designed mainly just for seniors. Because if a younger person comes through the equipment, it's going to be very easy. But what we've come up with is in the retention basin, we're going to do a multi-purpose trail and put advanced equipment equidistant all the way around to bring in younger people and bring in a bigger demographics.
And that's another question. How do you, I mean, if it is geared towards seniors, in essence, how do you, for lack of a better word, keep all the kids out of it? I mean, are you checking IDs and the reverse way of it, you know?
Well, probably,
you have to be a certain age to get in?
No, I don't think it'll be a problem for younger people to use it, but what I've learned from the Galveston Park, the equipment is just very easy to use. And so somebody much younger might think they're not getting enough out of it. But for somebody who's much older, it may be just the right challenge. Now, what's going to really support this through our organization is a volunteer service program. So we anticipate using technology, iPads, and people sign up for the courses, for the classes, and we basically guide them through the use of the exercise and monitor it, just like at a gym.
So in essence, it's not age restrictive, but it's but it's geared towards, and the facilities are designed towards people of a certain age and a certain athletic condition and ability. One of the things, of course, for some of our older residents, ADA compliance, wheelchair access, things like that, people who aren't as mobile. Do these things typically accommodate those types of folks as well?
Absolutely. We actually have a board member who's the conservation manager for Memorial Park. And so she's provided a lot of technical information, and we're looking at that specifically with people who are, you know, in those professions that can help design it as such. But the equipment is designed based on ADA rules. So,
any questions from council?
We could provide like the articles, but also what the equipment looks like, and also there's a lot of medical research that has shown the effects of it, especially in England. In fact, the Queen anointed Hyde Park with a senior park, and it's been very successful.
Either for Fritz or for Jason, do you have an estimate as to what a project of this sort, what the cost would be for maintenance?
So we wanted to make sure the city would be interested in the donation before we do a feasibility study. And before we start pouring all this money out, we just want to make sure that you have an interest in it. And of course, we'll answer all your questions and fulfill the requirements of making sure that you're certain that this would be an opportunity for you that you would like to capitalize on.
Jason, from like a pro rata standpoint, I don't know if you've done any analysis on a project of this sort?
Nothing like this. I mean, we are going to incur, some slight maintenance, obviously mowing and taking care of the trash and things of that nature. But from the building standpoint, I mean, they're using materials that'll be around for quite some time, and it's not just wood, wood versus metal, those kind of things. So, as far as those concerns go, there's nothing there.
I mean, to me, this seems like a no-brainer. It's the kind of, I'm almost waiting for the shoe to fall, for this to fall in our lap. And I think especially with the Jersey Village Senior Outreach, this is a perfect dovetail into that. We've done a number of projects very recently that really are geared towards younger families. This is a perfect counterweight to that to provide some additional facilities for our senior residents.
And incorporate maybe your employees for the wellness program. Because well done. Some of the other elements we're considering are an art and meditation garden, because we want to hit mind, body, and soul, make it a wellness park. We want it very unique, not just equipment sitting out there. We want it to be an experience, not only just for people of a great age, which can be really any age, but just to create an environment that you feel comfortable. Maybe you don't like to exercise, but you like you like to meditate, or you like to do yoga, and we have already some very prominent artists in Texas ready to donate sculptures. We're thinking about vertical gardening. I don't know if you are familiar with that, and maybe those seniors who don't like to exercise will get that through gardening. We also are going to have a big open lawn in the basin itself, and I did some research out of New York and met this gentleman who's running a major program for seniors that have 4,000 members doing lawn bowling. So that could carry forward to other parks and really promote the parks itself to get people outdoors, just like the city of Houston as they expand their green space. We're trying to get people outdoors, get up and go. The health insurance is going up. People need to take care of themselves, and exercise really is the best medicine.
I for one consider this a very worthwhile endeavor. It's definitely something I think that we should investigate. For Christian, Austin, what type of direction are you needing from council to move forward with the investigation on this?
To proceed with negotiating, move a little bit beyond the conceptual stage, and then conduct a feasibility study.
So in essence, we would be authorizing staff to continue negotiations. Of course, we don't have anything final to vote on, but nonetheless, to continue the investigation and the negotiations to bring bring forth a more of a concrete plan at a later date.
That's correct.
And Mayor, there would have to be a donation agreement that would address the land and improvements.
Sure, we would in essence be approving an agreement.
Yes.
Any other questions for staff, Fritz, council?
I just want to say thank you to the Dillard family for wanting to do this donation. That's very generous. Thank you.
Okay, looking for a motion at this time.
I move to direct the city manager to negotiate a donation agreement regarding this particular parcel of land. I don't know if we want to make it more specific or how it would be the best way to make it more specific for the purpose of the motion.
You may want to just refer to it as the Wallace and Marie Dillard Family Partnership donation.
Move to direct the city manager to enter to negotiate a donation agreement with the with the Wallace and Marie Dillard Family Partnership Limited regarding the Dillard property on Dillard for the purpose of creating a senior citizen park.
Second.
Lord, did you get all that?
Yes, I got it.
There's been a motion, seconds, or any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
For your time.
Item 11, consider resolution number 2018-16, accepting the marketing study as prepared by Brightbox. Jason Alfaro, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Honorable Mayor and Councilors, how are y'all doing this evening? We have a marketing plan for the Jersey Meadow Golf Course. It was identified in the city's 2016 comprehensive plan as a priority project. It was included in the 16-17 budget in an amount of $15,000. The Parks and Recreation Department submitted a request for proposal to several marketing firms. 2 Houston area firms were interviewed by the Parks and Recreation Director and golf course staff. Brightbox was selected unanimously for their experience in service delivery methods. The Parks and Recreation Department received a proposal from Brightbox in the amount of $13,750. On June 19, 2017, the City Council approved staff to execute a contract with Brightbox to develop a marketing plan for the Jersey Meadow Golf Course. The project included city staff and the Golf Course Advisory Board's participation. On February 19, 2018, during a regularly scheduled City Council meeting, the Council accepted the Jersey Meadow Clubhouse Assessment Report. After discussing the findings of the report, City Council unanimously decided to discuss options of designs for a new clubhouse facility. On March 8, 2018, City Council held a workshop to discuss options for a new facility and directed staff to prepare a request for proposal for the design of a new clubhouse. Since we are moving toward a complete rebuild of the golf course facility, we feel that Brightbox marketing plan correlates well with the rebuilt concept. City staff has asked Brightbox consultants to conduct a short presentation to City Council on their findings and recommendations. Brightbox is here tonight, and whenever y'all are ready for a presentation.
I think we're ready for a presentation.
All right. Great. Thank you guys so much. Simone's going to hand out some packets. I'd like to ask that, feel free to thumb through them if you want, but really I'd like to kind of go through this. One of the reasons why we wanted to present tonight is branding and marketing in general can be so subjective. I'm the owner and founder and chief marketing branding officer at Brightbox. We've written a book called The Brand Map that's been reviewed and taught at University of Houston as well as Rice. And so we've got a big background in marketing and branding in general. And what we're presenting tonight are our initial findings for kind of the state, the brand, where the brand is for Jersey Meadow Golf, and our recommendations from our analysis that we've done on how that brand could evolve if you guys choose to. So without going into too much detail, because this image is really blurred out, this is basically our brand map. It's much more impressive when you can see it all. It basically consists of 2 outside rings and then an inside part. This outside ring, we collect what we call known data, right? Where we interview the staff and the folks at the golf course and get internal brand review as far as your audience perception as well as your internal perception about how you feel about yourself, your service, your offering, your culture. And then my team goes out and we do the external market research. We're looking at the competitive assessment. We're looking at the industry assessment. What is everybody else doing out there? What are they all saying? We then take that known kind of data, that ring at the top, and we translate it one time into what we call our 3 W's, which is who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. Those are visually and from a message standpoint and visual standpoint imperative when you're doing any type of marketing. Who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. We then take the external market research and we translate that down into your market opportunity or your unique market segment. And then we combine those 2 things down into the brand, the creative, the visuals, the tactics, the strategy. And so what we're doing today is we're going to share with you guys the market positioning, We're going to review the name of the golf course, the messaging, the phrases that we use, as well as kind of identify our recommendations for your 3 Ws. And then Kristen's going to take us through some of the creative that the team's worked on. So starting with that internal brand review, and we're going to move pretty quick here. So feel free to make some notes and we can answer as many questions as you like. The feedback that we got from the team was that there was a desire to want to be a world-class traditional golf course, that it's lifestyle and experiential. We want to be family and kid-friendly, service-minded, that they had a great location, and there was a lot of value to what they could do with the facility. The products and services, pretty cut and dry, what you would expect at a golf course. Green fees, cart rentals, pro shop, coaching, practice facility, as well as the clubhouse for lounge, dining, and events. This is one that we did a little bit of research online, as well as got feedback from existing staff for previous customer perception. And we say previous because we like to look at branding from what has been up to today, not necessarily what will continue to go. And so the previous customer perception is typical of a community golf course based on the research that we've done. It's a fair course with fair pricing, low expectations, and not too memorable, right? Fair price, fair green, slow play. Our job is to create a new perception and rebrand of the course, including educating the community on all the new upcoming upgrades and improvements to the golf course. And so with that, there's a need, we feel, on our side to make some changes to how we're presenting ourselves. Going through the external, I'm going to allow Simone to kind of walk through some of these. She took a number of different competitor golf courses in the community and summarized them here. You want to click through that?
All right, so we started with Black Horse Golf Course. This is a 36-hole golf course. Nothing really popped out from their web presence, from their digital presence. No tagline. They're serving exactly what everybody else is serving: greens, unlimited play, and of course memberships. Then Hearthstone Country Club. They're big on special events, so right away on their website they hit you with a lot of advertising for their private events, special weddings and things of that sort. This is a 27-hole country club golf course. Heron Lakes Golf Course. The one thing that sticked out about this golf course is that they have a partnership with Staybridge Suites, so they offer discounts to all of their guests. They offer you to come and play and stay, of course, offering pro shops and memberships. This is an 18-hole course. Houston National Golf Club. What stuck out about this one is the fact that they have recently redesigned their clubhouse. It was a very busy site, no initial tagline, no special offerings when you first get into their website. This is an 18-hole golf course. Longwood Golf Course, very template-based web design, special event tournaments, and this one was actually designed by a former touring pro golfer named Keith Fergus and the University of Houston golf coach Harry Ewins. This is a 27-hole course. So what we gathered from our competitors in a summary is most of the golf courses are well maintained. They offer good greens, memberships. Some of the bigger brands are not very inviting, so it's kind of closed off from their web presence. They lack a consistent messaging, have relied on word of mouth, of course, in this industry that's kind of big, and have weak branding and marketing for digital campaigns.
And I think one of the things, too, as you guys are flipping back through that packet that we're really looking at from a branding perspective is what does the logo representation look like? How are they positioning themselves visually? What colors? What textural elements? Are there any taglines? Is there a commitment or promise that they're making to the community or to the customers? And so we're looking at all those as we're translating that down into that summary. And when you look at that summary, it's talking about there's not a lot of commitment, there's not a lot of promise, the prices are high. We'll get into how we start defining that. But as you guys go back through that packet later on, challenge yourselves with that exercise too, and I think you guys will come up with the same conclusions that we are.
All right, our external marketing research. So what the market needs is some variety. No one wants to play the same course every time, so they're looking for other golf courses that offer a different experience. So it's demanding quality courses, of course. The great thing about Jersey Meadow is that y'all do have a championship course, which we don't have a lot of those in Houston, Texas. It also needs some engagement. The growing youth segment of the market is in constant need of experience and engagement. So we can do this with a lot of digital campaigns. The industry weakness, well, communication. The industry is one that lets the product, the course, does the marketing for you. Very little communication or differentiation is ever done from a branding or marketing standpoint. This makes it terrible communication and difficult for the product. If you like our course, we like to have you. Basically, it's how they offer in their digital marketing space. The market is very Me Too. So you have green space, Me Too. We have a clubhouse, Me Too. This industry by nature is very Me Too, meaning that they offer a golf and leave, create no extra experience for the consumer. What sets us apart from our competition is you're leaving it all in the hands of the course rather than a holistic golf experience.
So with that said, we start looking at, okay, well, now that we kind of know what our internal brand review is, we're taking a look at some of the competition. Okay, so what does that mean for our market opportunity and our unique segment, right? So we've defined our unique market segment as an experience driven by service. If you have a world-class course, it will be amongst the other great courses in Houston. So to rise above and stand out in a crowded market, you need to rely on the attributes around the game and not just the course itself. You know, you're not just here to give them a cart and let them swing away. You give context to their enjoyment, and you enhance the appreciation of the game by constantly offering them something new to explore, a level of service that is unforgettable. And that's what makes you different from every other course in Houston. And I'll tell you, this isn't just something that, you know, we felt was needed, but this is something that we heard from every single staff member whenever we interviewed and we went through our questionnaire processes, that they all had this real desire to overserve and to be this real handheld experience that, you know, I don't think you're going to get in a lot of other places. So I'm going to jump to kind of the brand and some of the creative. I'm going to let Kristen take it from here. She said, no, not yet. All right, cool. Then I'll keep going here. So whenever we're looking at names, this can be a pretty powerful thing. And what we're going to be presenting today, I want you guys to probably everybody, we do what we call this 48-hour law. And what that means is your ideas of what currently exists, whether it's positive or negative, you already have an idea, you have an emotional connection to it. To present something that may be outside of that usually is going to take some time to sink in. And so we ask that you don't throw anything at us as we go through this presentation and allow it to sink in for a little while and see how it sticks. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But to be a powerful name, these are the things, the attributes that we ask of a name. Is it unique? Is it one of a kind in the marketplace? Is it memorable, right? Does it stay in the mind far beyond the bottom of the glass? Is it substantial? Are you able to make various campaigns and taglines? Is it adaptable, right? Can it be flexible? Can you one-word it? Can you one-phrase it? Is it finger-friendly, all right? What does that mean? That means can you type it very well, right? So nowadays you need to make sure the domain is going to be easy to type. And is it ear-friendly? Meaning when you hear it, do you know exactly what they're saying? You don't have to say, what is that? And so, you know, for us, we kind of build these stories. There's a history about this course that cannot be ignored. From the layout and configuration of the greens to its home in the center of Jersey Village, much like the sport of golf, we believe that this history should be celebrated. While our plans for the future are bigger than our achievements in the past, we don't want to lose sight of where this course came from. So combining the latest and cutting edge technology and service with the proud history of golf in Jersey Village, we want to take this modern look on a classic course, and our name for that is Village Links. So bear with me. That also comes with understanding the voice, right? So when we talk about a voice, how do we want to talk, right? If our brand could talk, if the website had content on it that could speak a voice, a language, we use this indexed from left to right. Are we more fun than serious? We're recommending that you're a little bit more fun. Are you more spontaneous than reliable? We want to be a lot more spontaneous. Are you more high energy than low key? Obviously high energy. We want to be right in the middle between modern and classic. With the style and layout of the course, we cannot forget that classic appeal, but we want to start implementing some new modern technology to the golfing experience. We want to be more people-feely than process. We want to be more accessible, but we do want to be more rare in the fact that we want to be different than all the other courses. It's not just golf. Here it's an experience, and we're going to try to build some things in there to make that so. So your 3 W's, right? Who you are, your Village Links, what you do, provide a world-class golfing experience for the local community at a reasonable price. who you do it for, those looking for fast, friendly play with fantastic greens. Now, Kristen, now she looks more comfortable now. Okay.
Now I'm ready.
All right.
This is the part I understand the best. So before I start doing any of the artwork and before we really start thinking about what you're going to look like, we look at these 4 key components, and it's, are you visually credible? Can you pull an emotional reaction? Is it capable of evolving over time? And does it have depth? So just so you know that all the artwork is really thought out and really intentional. So this is the color palette we went with, kind of. It doesn't look like that. It looks more like on your printouts. We kept going with the theme of the classic and modern with 2 classic colors, 2 modern colors, and then just a neutral with a pattern that we'll use over some of the pieces, and then a texture of grass. Same thing with the fonts, a classic serif font combined with a modern sans serif. Thank you. Okay, and then here's your new logo. Same thing, very classic. The logo will look very good when embroidered on hats, t-shirts. It's really simple, really clean. Definitely an upgrade from what is currently there, a lot easier on the eye. Just different ways that we can use it, stacked versions, just the plain logo, color on top of color, white on top of black. And our invisible corporate ID. Here's just an example of how we'll use the pattern throughout printed pieces and how we'll keep your brand integrity throughout all of your stuff. Okay, and then here's a theme for our photography look and feel. We'll use sepia tones as well as full color just to further push the idea of classic versus modern, not showing a lot of people, because whenever people look at you, I want them to determine whether they want to be there or not, and not judged based off of a really old person on a picture or a really young person on a picture. And then here's how we'll use those 2 ideas together in a photo with the sepia and with the color. And then here is an example of a new homepage where it's all above the fold. All the information you need is right there. It's really condensed, really easy to use, so whenever people are wanting to go to the course, they see right off the bat what they need and what they're looking for. And there's just an example of what I mean by above the fold. Like, this is the entire homepage. There's no scrolling. It's not overwhelming. It's very simple, easy to use, and shows off your classic versus modern. Then here's some examples of how the homepage image will slide through, showing your main CTAs, bringing the family, having your classic course, and fantastic greens. Here's an example of some printed pieces that we can have at the facility, giving information on all the classes or different things that we offer. They can also be used as mailers for people around the city. Here's some pro shop items that we mocked up, how we'd use the logo on top of things, embroidered on hats and shirts and on shorts, how we'd have the neon orange balls, which are also already a thing, but they're in brand conveniently. And then we just included this since we are upgrading the facility. Here's just some examples of how we can push your brand in cost-effective ways within the clubhouse.
So you guys got a really quick kind of dive on how we go through that. I'm sure there's probably questions and challenges to that, but I'm happy.
Oh, I think we can dig up a few questions. No problem.
I'm sure.
Questions from council?
I'd like to just start by saying I think this is all about thinking outside the box. I mean, this is marketing. This is Jersey Meadow is I grew up playing that course. A lot of us did, and so it is your 48-hour rule. I actually went through this before, and that the name change like completely was like, wait a minute, but 48 hours later, it really kind of got to me that this is something that we might want to explore with a whole new clubhouse feel. It still has the village name. It's very simple. So I think a lot of people, I just wanted to caution everybody. I went through this, probably the same reaction a lot of people have when you first see it, but actually go home and think about it, and over a couple of days, it might grow on you, maybe not, who knows. But I think you nailed it as far as the what our course is. We're reliable. We're here. Our location's great. You're not going to get you're not going to get, I don't even know names of courses around here, but you're not going to get a country club, type of experience. It's a municipal course. It's there. The price is great. It's easy to get on the course pretty much whenever you want. I think you nailed that, and I think that you focusing on the classics, the classic of our city. This is actually something that we're trying to do with our branding in general, with our whole city. Is we are a classic community. We don't really want to change. We're doing a lot of things really well. We're going to add a few things like a splash pad and things like that. But our brand that we're doing on our entry signs and on our wayfinding happen to stick to a classic type of nature. So this is as far as the visuals go, and I think as far as the typeface goes, I think you did a really good job on that. So those are just my thoughts. I wanted to just sort of caution everybody on the thinking about the name. It is.
Thanks for the caution.
Yeah.
and I will say the only other thing, just to add a little bit of context to this, is whenever we were originally retained to do this, there wasn't even mention about updating the clubhouse and the berm and all this stuff. With everything that's happening in that area, if there's ever a time to come out with a new name or a new brand and make a new statement about what the future is going to be for that specific piece of property, now would be it. And nothing is more bold than changing the name, and changing the vision for that. So definitely something to consider.
Was it always Jersey Meadow? When it was Cameron, was it Jersey Meadow too? I'm just.
That was our first recommendation, but no.
So the name is really just since 2000, 2001-ish? Jersey Meadow? Matt? Jersey Meadow as a name has really only been around since about 2000, 2001?
So a couple of questions I had, and some of the specifics of the proposal. Under this heading of brand voice, I wrote down a couple of notes. One of the things you recommended was the addition of modern technology. And Matt, you may want to, what type of modern technology are we envisioning in this, in a revised Jersey Meadows Golf Club or Village Links?
I can let Matt speak to kind of the play experience. I know for us, we're just thinking more about being connected on social media from a marketing standpoint. Nothing that's been approved, but we would definitely encourage you to be more active on social media, taking advantage of PPC and digital ad forms rather than historical, magazine ads.
So in essence, marketing technology, not so much golfing technology. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think there's golfing technology too, but I can't speak specifically to that. There's definitely a common theme there that we picked up in our questions that told us.
And that's something we can explore, right? Yeah. But another thing I wanted to ask, when you under here it says between rare and common, give a go, and we're more towards the rare side. Explain to me how we actually articulate that. What are we trying to say when we're rare versus common?
That you're getting a unique experience. That's the most important thing. A lot of times people can see rare as expensive or unapproachable. I think if we're friendly and we have a positive voice and we're approachable, but then our product and how we're doing it is completely different, that we're engaging on social media, that kids are able to keep up with things as they play in real time on the website or on social media, that we're incorporating different technologies into the cart. And I think that in and of itself makes it rare, because the experience is going to be unlike even the more expensive courses. Not even for having more money, but just having more thought and having more care and passion around it. And that's something that we got from your team more than just us. The team there, the staff there is really passionate about what they do.
So one of the things I also noticed on your website suggestions, it says the new and improved Jersey Meadow Golf down here, right? And I think that's a really smart idea, because there are people who are going to know this golf course as Jersey Meadows. They've known it that way for 30 to 40 years. And so for us to actually have that tie and connection, I think is important for reference.
Yeah, we normally give about 12 months to allow for that kind of dilution of the old, but you're going to want some reference in it. In the mailers, down on the bottom right, you'll have something that's, you know, the new and improved. On the website, obviously the main banner, but yeah, you definitely don't want to just cut it cold turkey. Otherwise, I think it's new management, new ownership. What happened? Yeah, absolutely.
On this website, we got the color side and we got the classic side. This split screen is, I mean, are you saying that this is what we want it to look like, or are we choosing between the classic and the color?
We want it to look just
the
like
split
that.
screen. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll take a full shot and then kind of black and white out that
Okay.
one square.
I will say I thought the overall work product was very good. I really kind of enjoyed the seeing the process. I will admit, full disclosure, my wife works in marketing, and so I gave it to her and I said, "Give me your thoughts." The two things that kind of came out of it, or I guess the main thing that she really was a little concerned about, was the colors that were being used. I think we saw a little bit there where it kind of washed out, but she kind of mentioned that it, especially when combined with the green, sort of this orange and brown might come off a little too Halloweenish. The other concern is also and this is probably not y'all's fault. I don't know to what degree y'all were made privy to our. I guess they were being developed at the same time, the Gateway and Wayfinding Master Plan that has, you know, a lot of development regarding colors and logos and things of that nature. My only concern is going to be that it feels like this is a little bit disjunctive from that process. And so I don't know to what degree we want to have some of the wayfinding logos and colors and theme be a little bit more consistent with the way we market the golf course. You know, obviously it can be, and I think it's just a philosophy thing. It can either look like it's a completely distinctive entity from the city entirely, or it can be a very closely aligned identity with the city. And I will say right now, at least my gut reaction is to continue to have a very close alignment with the city in terms of branding and a consistency in terms of color scheme, logos, everything. But I'm open to discussion on that front.
You know, Councilman, up until I started reading through this, I would have thought the exact same thing too. I would have thought there would have been some real advantage to uniformity. But as I'm looking at this, I think that changing the color and having the golf course stand on its own really demonstrates that it's a new day at this golf course. And I think it really, I mean, again, like I said, I would have thought that keeping the color scheme would have been great. But looking at this, I think there's a lot of really unique advantages to having a completely separate color scheme. It's its own golf course. It's its own entity. It's its own destination, if you will. You know.
I think in the golfing world, a municipal golf course, by its very nature, municipal has a negative connotation to it.
Absolutely.
And when you associate the golf course with a city, there's a golf course in Palm Springs, Indian Wells, beautiful. Spent tens of millions of dollars developing this golf course. And I didn't know until after I left that it's actually owned by the city of Indian Wells. And it was one of the nicest clubhouses I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot. But it was totally disassociated from that city, and that experience was fantastic. If somebody said, "Hey, we're going to go play at the city golf course," I would have had a completely different perception of where I was going.
Absolutely, and that's really what we're trying to do here is make this feel more like a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
Than a municipality brand. And I think the concerns on the color are valid. Our only rebuttal to that is, you know, go back and look at the competition. We don't want to just own the name and the look, but we also want to, you know, own the color. When somebody sees a white polo with that you know, that orange on there, they're going to automatically think Village Links before they think of another course.
But I tell you what, when I was thumbing through here and I first saw the Village Links, the name Links has a golf connotation with a link style course. That may be an issue, may not. But I tell you, I saw that logo and I go, man, I'd like one of those hats. I don't see the Jersey Metal logo and go, I got to have one of those. I don't even have one.
Yeah,
so
no greater compliment. Thanks.
Yeah. So I thought that logo was fantastic and something that I would really like to have. So.
And another thing about the colors, the color scheme for a city or a governmental entity. Maybe the color schemes that work for a city are probably different than the color schemes that work for a golf course we're going after different themes and we're trying to give different messages. So red, white, and blue is a great color scheme for our city, our municipal affairs, our city government. But some of these more earthy colors may play better to golf course. Just a thought.
I also like the being family oriented. I know, having started at the age of 10 playing golf, it was always very difficult to find a golf course that you could get a tee time with a 10-year-old to play golf. I mean, you had to beg, borrow, and steal and tell them that I wasn't going to slow anybody down. And I think that's a unique aspect, because you don't see that at many golf courses. You do see the, oh my God, there's a 10-year-old that's in front of me. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to play today. So I think having that kind of view, and given the fact that, you know, this is a family-oriented community, I think is a plus.
And your staff was adamant about that.
All right. I like a lot of this, the colors, the using that T with the initials, but I think JM works a lot better than VL. Based on your rules for naming standards, I don't think Village Links is unique. I don't think it's memorable. I don't think it's substantial. Jersey Meadow is. Jersey Meadow ties to the city of Jersey Village better. The actual Jersey Meadow golf course, this is more than 15 years ago now, but and I'm dated, but it actually had a reputation for having the best greens in Houston. Now, that was before it became a municipal golf course, and I realized it's probably impossible on a municipal golf course to get that reputation, but there are some good connotations with that name. Now, I also understand that with all the work going on, if you're going to change the name, it is the ideal time to do it. But all of that work isn't going to take place at the same time, and it's not finding the best time to change your name and do your branding with that name is going to be difficult. But again, I'd seriously consider keeping the name Jersey Meadows as opposed to going to Village Links. And again, Links is associated with the type of course that Houston National is, not Jersey Meadows.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, so one of the things that I'd like to get some input from staff, Jason, Austin, once we, assuming we approve the resolution accepting this, what are the next actions that you see? What are some of the implementation strategies we'll have going forward? Kind of walk us through the next couple steps of implementing some of these marketing strategies.
Well, like Jason mentioned, it's going to be a year-long process. So it's not just something that we go in and we say, okay, hey, we're changing our name and now it's for Village Links and that's it. I think you know, bringing that into the public's eye, letting them know, you know, these are the things that we're looking at doing, bringing it in nice and soft, as Jason mentioned, and then placing some of that stuff on our attire as well. I think those will be the first steps that we have. And even pushing the whole social media. I think that's probably one of the very first steps that we do, and then continue to move forward with everything else.
Okay, any other questions for staff? I'm really appreciative of this study. I think there's been a lot of good things in here. There's a lot of things we hadn't thought about before. I do like the idea of thinking about a new name. I do like the idea of thinking of a new color. Doing some uncomfortable things that we're not used to often can have some really exciting results. So I'm really excited that you've got us thinking in this direction. We're very, very optimistic about the future of this golf course, the clubhouse, the potential for this amenity for both our community and the community at large. And so we're really glad that this. I'm personally glad we brought this to the table. And so I really want to applaud your efforts and thank you very much for that. Is there any other additional comments or questions on this before we look at the resolution? Thank you very much, folks. Looking for a motion on the resolution.
I move we approve Resolution 2018-16, accepting the marketing study as prepared by Brightbox.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Keeping with the golf course theme, item 12, discuss and take appropriate action concerning the golf course berm project. Austin Blees, City Manager.
So this agenda item is just placed here so the council can discuss and take any necessary action that they might want to from our work session that was held at 5:30 this evening.
Thank you, Austin. Okay, so we did discuss this in depth at the workshop. Is there any additional comments? What we want to do during this agenda item is actually give some specific direction to staff with regards to the golf course berm project, what we would like to see engineering develop, and what we would like for them to bring back, when we'd like for it to come back, so we can take some further action on this item. Is there any additional discussion on this item?
I think we talked about a lot of things, but I think one of the things that I think I talked to Frank about, and perhaps others, is I think we need a chronological order of events. And I think they're going to, I think staff and Frank will prepare that, because what we're talking about a golf course berm project, a potential Wall Street project, perhaps some project up on Crawford, doing some connector deals, perhaps expansion of detention ponds, perhaps using dirt from expansion of detention ponds for the berm. But I think that I think we're talking about a lot of different issues, and I think a lot of them, or a couple of them, are independent of each other. We can do the golf course berm without necessarily doing the pumping. We can do the golf course berm without doing detention. So I think what we need is that timeline in those decision points, so we break it down into smaller chunks so we can digest it rather than. And I think we're doing that, but just kind of reiterate that it's a step-by-step process. But I'm very satisfied. I like what Frank brought to the table in terms of pumping. I think that adds an element that we didn't think about, adds a lot of capacity, utilizes a lot more of the golf course for other purposes other than just golf course runoff. So I think there's some great ideas and some good projects, and I think we'll get more bang for our buck by looking at the things that we talked about earlier.
My feelings are, before we can go forward with starting the berm project, we have to know the path of the berm. Now, I don't want this being delayed anymore. I'd like to get started on it. So at that point, I'm basically say this. We didn't get a topo visual of the proposed berm as far as how high the berm will be at different locations. And I think it's relation to the height of the current cart path. Knowing that would be very helpful, but I don't want to wait till the next meeting to make a decision on that. So I would just say that if the proposed height of the berm is going to be more than 2 foot higher than the current cart path, that we need to change the path of it and not go behind the houses on Village Drive.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, Gary, and I echo your sentiments about not delaying on this and moving forward with it. I think that that's definitely an important initiative for us. So what I would, and I think kind of echoing Greg's comments and yours as well, Gary, I think one of the things, I guess the direction we probably want to take, and my recommended direction would be to direct staff to work with Brooks and Sparks to develop a conceptual design, of a recommended, not conceptual, a recommended design of a golf course berm. And as I mentioned earlier, I'd like to see a rendering of what it would look like, and a cost associated with that. And I think that would capture a lot of your thoughts and concerns, Gary, as well. I feel as if we can do that in a pretty timely manner. 60 days, 70 days, you think, Austin? Give them something like that?
I think that's very doable, if not a little bit quicker.
So I think that's priority one. I think we have enough information and data to go forward with that. Again, the berm is priority one right now. I think we have what we need to get moving forward with that and to make some key decisions. To Greg's point, I would like for them, and if possible, if they could do it at the same time, to evaluate any additional dredging or water hazards that can work in conjunction with the berm. I think we'd like to look at that option as well. Now, council may decide to just go forward with the berm and maybe do the additional water hazard detentions at a later time. But I think we should be able to have that information at our disposal to make that decision. Probably at not the next meeting, the following meeting. So we're looking at probably the May meeting. That makes sense to everybody? Okay. Then the third thing, and I don't think we would be able to, we would have this by a May meeting, is I would like for, while Brooks and Sparks is working on a berm design and cost estimate, I would like them to start the process of evaluating a pumping program and a street program for the Wall Street corridor. And I don't expect they'll have that available at the next meeting or the meeting in which we discuss the berm, but I would like to have the wheels moving on that one, so we could probably take that up shortly thereafter. But to Gary's point, I think that we need to get the ball rolling on the berm stuff and get that going as soon as possible. Any thoughts on that? So unless I hear anything to the contrary from council, do we need an actual motion, or do you have enough direction to go forward with that, Austin?
I believe we have enough direction.
Does anybody have any additional comments or suggestions, questions in regards to this? Very good. Okay. Then what we will do, we'll actually move into item G. We'll close regular session and we'll move into executive session. City Council is now going to retire to a closed session at 9:38 p.m. pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551071. To consult with the attorney, Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property, and Section 551.074, personnel matters in connection with the following items. Consult with the attorney pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071 and Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, regarding proposed settlement, offer for one, waterline easement being .0395 acre tract of land being out of and of part of called .8232 acre tract as described in the deed to Landmark Industries LLC recorded under Harris County file number HCCF number 20110508349 located within the city of Jersey Village, Harris County, State of Texas. Item 2, pursuant to Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.074, personnel conduct an executive session in order to deliberate an appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, dismissal of the city manager. Item 3, pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, personnel matters, conduct an executive session in order to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, and dismissal of the city secretary. We'll return to open session and continue with the remainder of tonight's agenda after the closed session deliberations are concluded. The closed session was adjourned at 10:33 p.m. and no official action or vote was conducted during the closed session. We'll now move into item J1, discuss and take appropriate action on matters discussed in executive session, including the consideration of possible action on resolution number 2018-17, approving a settlement agreement with Landmark Industries LLC for the acquisition of a water line easement across .0395 acre tract of land, parcel 724, as part of the 290 water line project within the city of Jersey Village, and authorizing the city manager to execute the settlement agreement and related documents, making other findings related hereto. Leah Hayes, city attorney.
Mayor and City Council, the recommendation is to approve the settlement agreement, finding that the amount of settlement is reasonable and fair.
Any questions for Leah? Looking for a motion on the resolution.
I move to approve resolution number 2018-17, approving the settlement agreement with Landmark Industries Energy LLC for the acquisition of a water line easement across a 0.0395 acre tract of land, parcel 724, as part of the 290 water line project within the city of Jersey Village, and authorize the city manager to execute the settlement agreement and related documents.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, any abstentions, motion carries. Item 2 and item 3 relate to the city manager and the city secretary's salary. No action was taken during the executive session. Unless anybody else has any issues on these agenda items, we will move on to mayor and council comments. Very good. We'll start with Councilman Wubenhorst.
No comments from me.
No comments.
No comments.
I'll just say for anyone who's still watching this live, congratulations for staying up this late. Thank you, Austin Blease, for everything you've done to make these live broadcasts a reality. And I'm looking forward to hearing feedback from people who have watched it.
No, just a couple quick comments from me. I just want to congratulate everybody, all my colleagues on City Council. We've had some very involved City Council meetings. We had a very active meeting this evening as well. We got a lot of things done, and we're continuing to have some pretty active City Council meetings going forward. I want to congratulate the members of the Jersey Village Senior Outreach. They've reached 71 members. I attended their very first meeting when it was just a conceptual idea, and the fact that they're doing some great things for our older residents is an absolutely fantastic thing, and I wish them all the best and everything, and look forward to helping them in their future endeavors. With that, I also do want to congratulate and welcome our 3 new officers who are not here, but nonetheless we were introduced to this evening. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Staff, thank you for all your work. Colleagues, thank you for your time. With that, meeting adjourned.